Morning News Watch.
Please, may we have your attention? The KZIM KSIM morning meeting is now hitting your airwaves.
Stand by, everybody.
Yes, your favorite radio personality, Faune Riggin, hosts.
We're on in 5.
Pick up a phone!
So what are you waiting for? Feel free to pick up that phone and call in with questions or comments. Dial 335-5512 or 1-800-TALK-960. And by the way, it's a free call from your Verizon wireless cell phone by touching star 960. The KZIM KSIM morning meeting begins
And QID.
now.
To be elected. His name is Bob Parker. He is a Republican running for U.S. Congress against Jo Ann Emerson. He joins me now in studio. Hi, Bob.
Hey, Fawn. Great to be with you and your listeners this morning.
Yeah, lots and lots of them, too. Everybody is really paying close attention to the election coming up. Not just this race.
You bet.
But all of them.
We
and
are
with good reason.
concerned. You bet. Very good reason to check out these candidates running for office.
Check out everybody. A lot of people want to hear a big flushing sound in Washington and just start over. Is that kind of your philosophy? That's
kind of my philosophy. Of course, if they're a good representative, I don't have, in representing the interests of the people and representing our Constitution, we have some good people in Washington that need to stay there. But if they're not doing that, I think we need to get rid of them and get some new folks in there that will represent what our founders envisioned for our country, and that's freedom.
Yeah, I agree. We don't really do a whole lot of dirt throwing on this show. I want to focus more about what it is that you stand for and what you believe, because I think people respond to that a little better.
Right.
So what is it that you stand for? Are you strictly constitutional?
Well, give you a little bit of my background. I'm an old farm boy. I grew up on a farm, row crop farm, and I bought a farm of my own in Texas County over here on the west side of the 8th Congressional District when I was 19 years old. And I still live over there by a little town of Raymondville. I ran a dairy farm over there for years, and I run cattle over there. I have about 500 acres over there. I do a little deer hunting and guiding on my property. I'm also, when I sold my dairy in 1998, I got back in the real estate business and sell farms and ranches and hunting properties and things like that. And just been active in my church for years. Became a Christian when I was 18 years old. I'm just kind of like a lot of people here in the 8th District, just trying to work your business and mind your own business. And you just want a government that provides an environment that you can do that. And that's kind of why I stepped up to get involved, because I think we're losing a lot of our freedoms and our ability to make a living here in Missouri.
Do you feel that even with the EPA and other restrictions that they're putting on farmers, not only with pesticides, but just environmental controls that are completely out of whack, is that something that you would champion for?
Yeah, that's a huge part of why I'm running. I mean, my dairy farm, we saw regulators, come up with ideas that they didn't really understand how it would impact us on the farm and the cost involved. And a lot of it was just a bunch of nonsense, really. And things that they were coming up with to justify their existence, it looked like to me. And, so yeah, I think we need to get rid of the EPA. I think the EPA, the way it's structured right now, is just really destroying our private sector and our jobs in this country. I think we need to return that back to the states. That's a huge issue for me. Get rid of the EPA, turn it back to the states, and more local control.
When the EPA turns a bucket of spilled milk into a hazmat incident, that's pretty ridiculous.
Well, that was several years ago. I tried to do a milk processing plan, and that was what shut me down. Was when DNR came out and said they had new regulations that required me to build a whole sewage treatment plant. That shut my little, operation down for processing milk. So it just, I've been shut down time and again by the regulators and small business things that I've tried to do, and really just things that didn't make sense, were too costly. We can't just import everything into this country. We have to produce things here, and we need small business people, in Missouri and in America, and they're really under attack.
It is difficult to get things done in Washington, D.C., because there are plenty of people there who want to block your moves because of special interest, or even, the EPA blocking this or that, or making a regulation to benefit them by shutting down the competition. But how is it that you feel you would make an impact in Washington that could actually change things?
Well, a number of years ago when I started fighting for private property rights and the interest of small business people, I found the thing that's the most effective is just getting the truth out there and exposing the corruption in government and what they're actually doing. So that's, that's been a big part of my strategy, is just exposing, shining the light into a dark place. And a lot of people don't like that, when you expose the truth and talk about the issues involved and put a common sense point of view on it. And that's always been effective. So I think I'll take those things that I've learned in my battles on the local and state level and take them to Washington, D.C. And, I think both parties have really lost their way in areas. And I'm kind of a Tea Party kind of a guy. And before there were Tea Parties, I was, a Liberty kind of guy. I just was very frustrated with what I saw in both parties. And I think that just shining the light into both parties and what they're doing wrong and being a strong advocate for freedom and our Constitution is going to make a lot of difference.
Do you think that you can garner enough support to take on Jo Ann Emerson?
We've been working hard. I ran last time. We've, developed a grassroots network across the district. We've got about 60 area coordinators. We've got hundreds of volunteers. We're really running a ground game. We're not, we don't tap into the big lobbyist money and all the special interest money like, Mrs. Emerson does. And, frankly, we don't have a lot of money in the bank account, but we have, we have an army out there that's handing out literature, talking to their neighbors, doing things on Facebook and YouTube. And I encourage people to get on those sites and check me out. There's a lot of information out there. Google Bob Parker or get on my website, electbobparker.com. There's a lot of information about this race. So that's kind of what we're doing. We're doing a ground game. I can't outspin Jo Ann, but maybe we can outwork Jo Ann.
Okay, we have Noble on the phone who has a question for you, Bob. Noble, go ahead.
Hey.
Hi, Bob. I went to the Lincoln picnic that Jo Ann Emerson hosts ever so often, and I asked her when I was there about the czars. It's my understanding that she's on the oversight committee for unappointed nominees, or unelected appointed nominees. And she told me that there's nothing that she can do about it, that the Constitution doesn't really matter anymore. And you can have my vote by just telling me that you will pursue the Constitution. Is that in your game plan? Because I'm a young individual.
That's definitely in my game plan, Noble. I think that those people should be approved by Congress and not just appointed by the president. I'm completely against this situation with the czars. I'll be on your side on that one.
All right. You got my vote then. Thanks, Parker.
Okay, now, Bob, remember, I have to shut your mic off so you can hear them.
Okay.
He can't hear you answering until I point at you.
Okay.
Not everybody's in radio, so... And
I'm just used to people pointing at me and not, not waiting. Okay.
No, if you do have questions, 335-5512, 1-800-TALK-960 or star 960 on your Verizon wireless telephone. This nation is bankrupt, and I know that's going to be one of the things that we need to stop the sucking sound that's going on right now. We need to stop not only our dependence on foreign oil, but also on our dependency on Chinese bankrolling everything that we're doing.
Right.
How do we stop it?
Well, as a businessman for, all my life, I've had to balance my own budget. And, it's not going to be easy to balance this budget in Washington. We're borrowing about 43% roughly of our spending right now. And it's just a tremendously huge problem. But I'm committed to doing that. We're going to have to look for every way that we can. But, under Obama and even George Bush, they continue to grow government. Under Obama, it's just exploded. And, a frustrating thing to me was last year when the Republicans had an opportunity to not raise the debt limit, to really demand some real cuts in these programs. They didn't do it. They dropped the ball at the last minute. They went ahead and approved the debt limit increase. And I think I was outraged. I think a lot of people were outraged. I think that was the opportunity to really force some real cuts in this budget. And the cuts they talk about are the cuts in the next 10 years of growth of government instead of real cuts to the budget. We need real cuts on these programs. We need to, we need to get rid of the EPA. We need to get rid of the Department of Education on the federal level, turn that back to the states. There's a lot of agencies that are too bloated, too big, too expensive. And a lot of people don't understand how the real economy works. The government doesn't create wealth. It doesn't create jobs. The jobs they create they're taking the money from somebody out there working a job, producing something, and they take it away from them and give it to somebody else. So growing government is not the answer. Yeah, for a short term, it gets more money in circulation, but the long-term effect of that is what we see now. The private sector gets smaller and smaller. Our budget gets greater and greater, and the middle class get hammered, and it's somebody's got to get up there in Washington, D.C. that understands how the economy really should work.
You can't just stand your ground there, too, though. They want you to meet them halfway on some of these things in a compromise in order for the government to stay going. So they were looking for tax cuts to equal the amount that they were raising the debt. But I see what you mean. It's got to stop somewhere.
It's got to stop somewhere, and the frustrating thing is, we have the Social Security tax cuts that they made and that Mrs. Emerson voted for, but that weakens Social Security. I think, my folks get Social Security, and I think we need to keep that Social Security fund solvent. That's a huge issue for not only my folks, but it's a huge issue across this country. People have paid into Social Security, and we need to do everything we can to keep that solvent. But when we spend all our money on all these massive programs and massive bailouts and stimulus programs, how are we going to keep the promises that we've made to our seniors?
Yeah. And I want it there when I'm a senior.
Exactly. Well, you've paid into it. I've paid into it. And I thought that was the whole idea, that it would be there. But, every year that goes by, we see 2 or 3 or 4 years whacked off of the, life expectancy of our Social Security benefits. And that's got to change. And, we need business people in Washington that have been out in the real world that know how to handle money and deal with this budget deficit.
Okay, we have to kind of do rapid fire here now because we're running out of time, and hopefully we can get them. I'm going to see if this person has. Do you have a question for Bob? Hang on, please. Okay. I couldn't get her to understand that I'm physically talking to you on the air, and I can't just be on the phone. All right, here's a question for Bob. I need to shut your microphone off so you can hear her, okay?
Okay.
Go ahead.
Hi, Bob. I haven't heard a whole lot about you, and I was glad that Faune had you on the radio this morning so that I could learn more about you. But my question is, it seems like everybody who goes to Washington, D.C., who are good people, when they leave here and they come back corrupt. I mean, do you have a plan to keep your personal integrity while you're there?
Okay, go ahead, Bob. Thank you for your call.
Thanks for your call. The best way I can answer that, I became a Christian when I was 18 years old, and I've been true to my faith and true to my God. And the Bible says, what does it profit a man to gain the whole world and lose his own soul? And I have no intention of going to Washington, D.C. and losing my own soul over, some financial gain or something else. It's time for people to go to Washington to fight for the folks, to fight for the people in this district and represent the true interests of freedom and our rule of law. And that's what I want to do. I get that question a lot, and I understand that. We're all frustrated with that. But my record, if you check me out, look at my record. I've stood on principle many times, and I've got a lot of scars to prove it.
Okay, and we have literally 30 seconds left. Yes or no answers. Pro-life?
I'm strongly pro-life from conception to natural death.
Okay, and pro-gun?
I'm pro-gun. I got my NRA hat. I own a lot of guns. I love my guns. I hunt, but the Second Amendment is to protect our freedom, and we need to always keep that. And right to conceal carry, I'm a strong supporter of that.
Excellent. I'm a conceal and carry. Also, gay marriage.
I'm against gay marriage. I think marriage should be between a man and a woman.
Okay, everybody, that is Bob Parker. He would like your vote. He's running against Jo Ann Emerson in the upcoming election. Bob, what do they look for on the ballot?
Well, look for Bob Parker. My name will be first, and Jo Ann Emerson will be right under my name. And just check that first box, and then go on to the next race would be great. But check out my website, electbobparker.com. I'm on a lot of YouTubes about the campaign and Facebook, so check me out. Thank you, folks.
That's Bob Parker running for District 8, U.S. Congress. It's 8:55.